or liberation just have vastly different understandings of what liberation is for.
I haven't seen this much importance and attention.
The story itself is a really wonderful, really great setup.
Tractor beam has been engaged.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tractor Beam Comics Reviews, your one-stop shop for in-depth commentary and discussion on the Star Wars books that came out today. It is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. It's the fourth week of comics in 2025. We're rolling right along in this year. I'm Matthew here in Underworld North Studios, where it's cold. As always, joined by Chris there in Underworld, Jersey. How you doing, Chris?
Yeah, we're both in the elements of Hoth in the Northeast out here, so it's we're surviving. We don't have to send out any air speeders, snow speeders yet to go search for our lost souls, but we're keeping warm with the tauntauns and the fire, I guess you could say.
Otherwise, we will see you all in hell. No, there you go. Viewers can know there's another screen joining us tonight. Joining us, usual partner in crime over on Iron Cannon. It's joining us from Underworld. Was it Underworld Orange County? It's Mr. Joel Davis. How you doing tonight?
You guys are at Hoth. I'm in a weird mix of Tatooine and probably Mustafar with the fires and the desert and the humidity. There's no humidity here. It's dry as heck. I got my water, drinking it nonstop. So I get stuck with the desert and the sand that's coarse and gets everywhere.
There you go. We should just all just go to Naboo. Come on.
Yes.
Or even Octo, as you guys see in the intro. I'm working this out now. This is decaf, by the way. Don't worry, folks. It's decaf. All right, we'll do some plugs. Just get the plugs out of the way. You can follow us. I'm gonna highlight Blue Sky. It's a week to highlight Blue Sky for reasons. So you can follow us at ironcannon.bluesky.profile, however it works, just at Iron Cannon. You can definitely follow Chris at Star Raptor on Twitter, just Twitter and YouTube. Twitter at Star Raptor, StarRapter, and youtube.com/Star Raptor, and check out everything we've gotten up to the past week in Star Wars, including Iron Cannon, Room Transmissions, and everything Chris has gotten going on this channel. You've done quite a bit, so please do check that out. Also, if you are listening, you already know this, but if you would like to actually listen to the audio form of this podcast, just after we finish recording, I will throw this up onto Spotify for Creators is what's called, behind the scenes, that shoots it to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So wherever you get your podcasts, your audio podcasts, at least those two places, not wherever, those two places, please do check that out. Look up Tractor Beam Comics Reviews. Tractor Beam Comics Reviews is where you can find those. Otherwise, definitely here on YouTube, Facebook Live, Underworld Facebook, Underworld YouTube, Underworld Twitch, and Ion Cannon Twitch is where we hang out on Wednesday nights, because Wednesdays are for comics and comics are for Wednesdays. Last but not least, we are proudly part of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network here on the YouTube channel. Specifically, we have super chats, we have memberships, so please do support the channel as you would like, and just going around the horn. Check out of course Iron Cannon. Gotta plug my own show, but check the flagship Thursday nights, and everything we're up to on the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network. And one of the biggest things we're up to every day is the Discord server. Down in the description below, you can get a minty fresh link that gets you into our Discord server, where you can join the conversation. And the water's fine. Joel, there was a movie night recently, or is things coming up? What's happening?
We watched Treasure Planet. I was called Treasure Island. Treasure Planet, Disney's Treasure Planet, last week in celebration of Skeleton Crew, and it was a lot of fun, especially because we noticed both a lot of Skeleton Crew references and a lot of Ahsoka references too. Funny enough, there's a spoiler for the movie that's been around for a decade. There's the map to the planet is in this little ball thing, and I'm like, it's kind of like the Ahsoka map ball at the beginning. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if they were fans of Treasure Planet. So there was that, And this week we're going back to tried and true game nights. We can play Fortnite, Fall Guys, Overwatch, Marvel Rivals. If you have a Switch, Hunters, or whatever you want to play, always join us for lots of fun, good times.
Nice. And how does that work? You just pick a game and just go and
Yeah, just play with friends, chill out in the voice chat,
Nice.
talk, and vibe.
Yeah,
It's
there you
the
go.
best way to do in these times.
Yeah, for sure. It's great to see you guys again. I say this every time, but you and Ben really kept the show going. The Discord server, the community. I see a lot of new folks coming in. So that's pretty great to see. All right. I think got all the way through the plugs. We'll pick those back up at the end as we usually do, but we have a bunch of stuff to go through, including one comic book that did come out today. It was the 4th and final issue of Battle of Jakku Last Stand. It's the 12th and final issue of the Battle of Jakku. This one was written by Alex Segura, with art by Jethro Morales, colors by Jim Campbell, letters by VC's Joe Caramagna, and covered by E.M. Gist. And the Battle of Jakku rages on as never seen before. The New Republic must make a painful choice that puts Akbar's forces at risk. Luke Skywalker faces off against the deadliest menace to the Republic and the Empire. A historic character makes their first appearance ever. What a finale. What a way to close off the run. It really brought home, I mean, in a way, it brought home everything, not just from this comic, definitely from this comic, but also from the aftermath. And we'll get into later on, we'll get into a full-on look back of this run. But you're bringing in everything with Sloan and Rax and seeing all that go down again, right? I think this is probably the only moment from the novels that we get a clear picture of in the comics, or at least we get some of, I think. But yeah, also, I mean, the way Luke is able to confront Adelhard again, trying to save him, trying to go there, and whatnot, bringing everyone together. It's so much going on. Chris, I'll throw this one to you. What do you think of this issue and how it finishes the run?
Well, to set the stage, I was messaging you, I think, a day or two before, going, "Oh man, my hype for this comic book is kind of unrealistic." I in my head, I was like, "There's no way this comic book can live up to the hype I have in my mind of my expectations of how I want to see this thing's going to end, how I want to feel when this thing ends." And guess what? It actually exceeded expectations. In a positive manner. I was so pleasantly surprised by the way this thing, we talk about cinematic, we talk about how the artist team is able to just bring together such great thrilling kinetic action in space, and then you get this big climactic confrontation between Luke as well as Adelhard, that reconfrontation, and getting back together, what's going on, a lot of surprises here, stuff with going on with Rin really becoming her own character. I can't wait what her future holds for her. Getting to see Han Solo coming into the Battle of Jakku with Calrissian. Just, this is epic stuff that it's just so fun to know now that when you're rereading Aftermath, all these other factors that are at play. The Super Star Destroyers with LOD. I can't even pronounce the last.
Mark of Anaya or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. That was really neat. But just seeing the toll, it was interesting because you get like the really micro version of the story that we're focused on with Luke and Adelhard, but then you get that nice balance of the macro story, whether it be little vignettes of what's happening with Gallius Rax, and then big moments with Admiral Akbar and a gate with the Starhawks and like, oh crap, like we're about to lose, like we actually are going to get crushed by the Empire unless we do something to get troops on the ground now. Coming up with, again, the visuals that I was imagining when I was reading Empires and seeing it actually come to the forefront of what's happening in there, seeing that thing we've been wanting to see, the birth of Ben Solo. But then getting an awesome epilogue, which really just sets the future. And we'll get into the news later. But I was like, I went from reading this thing to seeing the news and going, oh, that makes so much darn sense right now. I love how they didn't have us waiting on bated breath to go, are we ever going to get a continuation of this story? What's going on here? So it was literally within an hour after I read that comic that I realized that, oh, we're getting a continuation. So that really helped beef up my my love for the way this thing ended, not knowing it's the finale. But yeah, it's a great overall conclusion that I think tied things up really well with all these major characters coming home to fulfill what they are there to do. So I really like this one.
Yeah,
Stuck the landing. It stuck the landing.
It really did, and it did it interestingly. I mean, one of the things I'm just thinking now about Han and Ben, which again we haven't had any Han moments in 5 years. I mean, we had in this time frame, right? We had the Mark Guggenheim comic, but that moment where Han is they're debating whether or not people need to go from Chandrila to Jakku to actually go rescue Luke, and Han said, one thing about me, you didn't marry a coward, right? and because Han's been up and running for a year now, or whatever, 6 months or 7 months or whatever it is, and knowing that by going, just like in the last issue, by going to Chandrila to help Leia can take care of herself, but help taking care of his pregnant wife, that driving him now, and I'll get into that in a little bit later, but that saying, okay, now driving that family bond to go save Luke, he doesn't, you didn't marry a coward. He goes, and you're right, that moment with the Falcon and the Lady Luck and this crew behind them, and then of course the Spice Runners. Finally, we see it happen. It was definitely well set up in the last issue. We definitely see it happen that they're turning on Adelhard. All the dominoes that he trusted in falling down, and it was again, everything really brings it together to the end where you have the Galactic Concordance, the signing ceremony with Masamida's there.
Yeah,
in very casual clothes.
Very casual clothes, and he's there, and I mean, I'm guessing he is there in the Aftermath trilogy. But the moment in the Aftermath trilogy I remember the most with Masamida, is the one where he tries to offer whatever he can to Mon and Leia, and they won't have any of it. So here, there actually is a meaningful offer that he can. Of peace that he can make.
Can I just say, I just want to point out when we're talking about it, can I say I kind of laugh at that picture because Masamida's got this smile, my Masa got the smile, and I'm Masamida. I was right hand to the most evil genocidal maniac. We're all friends here now.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's true. There's got to be some.
I know he's a Sith Lord from Exegol. I'm okay with this.
There's got to be some consequences there. It's true. But then tying that in with the birth of Ben Solo and the sign of hope for the galaxy, and thinking, of course the rest of the galaxy would know that Mon Mothma's number 2, Leia, who by the way is basically commanding the fleet in this, that she's given birth. She has a son. This is a significant moment, that this is a public thing, and it's a reminder that Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, his whole life has had this public pressure on it, that I'm wondering if Charles Soule's going to go into that, possibly. So that, but even the use of Ben Solo as a marker of time in this comic for him to can be this sign of hope. It's a bittersweet sign of hope because we know where he ends up, but in this moment, in this time, what a way to end it. Kind of like I mean, not like Revenge of the Sith a little bit, because that's dark times, but with an infant representing a new hope, right? Is there? So that, Joel, I haven't turned it to you. I'll turn it to you. What did you think of this issue?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was short. I'm so used to the first ones being.
It was longer. It was 40 pages. But yeah.
Really? Oh yeah.
Good pacing, good editing. Then anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but really, because the one you sent me only got 23, but it goes up to. That's how I read it.
I could be wrong. I don't know. Keep going.
But yeah, I thought I was like, oh wow, like already Adelhard's dead. And then you're Jakku. But no, overall I thought it was fun ending to a fun series. I love seeing like the pirate Star Destroyer, which is from the Aftermath books. I want to make that clear. That's not a new thing. That's also from the Aftermath books.
Eliodi, Mark of Anya, yeah.
Also, the operator's Gallius Rex, guys.
Yes.
I told you both in private,
Oh.
but now I'm going to say.
Sorry, everybody.
But
You're right. It's only 24 pages, 23 pages. Anyway,
I'm so used to the first one being longer. But no, overall, I had fun. I thought I had a guess for a second who the person in shadow was, but then I looked again, like, oh no, now I know who I think it is.
Interesting.
I thought it was Atha Prime. I wanted my Atha Prime theory to be true. It was not. It's. I think it's a crazy lady who.
Reyna Skura. I looked. I think it's
Reyna?
her lips and her chin look about the same.
Interesting.
But she's calling herself the Praetor. Like the guy refers to her as Praetor. I don't know if that name rings a bell. I looked it up on Wikipedia. There's nothing on it.
Praetor is a word for like a governor or it's a Roman word.
Oh, okay.
Like
Praetorian Guard,
a Roman magistrate. So like it's kind of like the magistrate, like what's her name from Ahsoka?
Oh, Morgan Elsbeth.
Yeah, like Morgan Elsbeth.
Although, wasn't it a high-up official in the Senate, in the Roman Senate? Almost like an executive official?
They're ranking below council, but Star Wars use words, but that don't actually mean the same thing. But
Star Trek and the Romulans have a praetor, and he's basically the emperor. Anyway,
that's true. But no. Overall, I thought it was fun. When we talk a little bit more about the series on the whole, I do think it relied a little too much on knowing the Aftermath books to kind of get you invested a little bit. At least I think it does.
This issue especially, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think some of the moments with Rax will hit unless you have read those books like I do and remember them really well.
That's something we'll pick up on in our
balance. But no, overall, I really like seeing, Luke and Leia do their thing. I like kind of having this little intermediate period. And I'm excited to see Alex Segura do his thing in a more maybe breathable, opener environment with the main line coming up. Kind of like the story, kind of now that it's kind of free from like you have to get to the events, like you got a little more room to breathe.
Yeah.
But overall, really fun. I would say a really fun little transitional book between the previous runs and the next one coming in, and I'm curious to see where he goes.
So on that note, then let's talk about that epilogue, because and this whole tease of a historic character making their first appearance. Did we catch that at all? Do we know who that is?
I just think they're just saying Ben Solo, and that's just silly marketing.
I think it was just silly marketing.
Really? Okay, that's disappointing.
I had a feeling it was going to be like this, and
maybe I'll ask the folks at Marvel for confirmation. Fair enough, but yeah, I mean that epilogue is an interesting tonal shift. And Joel, it's interesting you make the point you're used to. Issue one is issue one of especially Insurgency Rising and Last Stand. I think Republic Under Siege had an epilogue too of Adelhard's backstory. This one also has sort of a little epilogue of kind of the cliffhanger of what's coming next, and these this Praetor, we think we think it maybe is Reyna buying off these little planets.
It's the smile. It's the
smile. Yeah, be telling. Fair. I mean, I had no idea. I was wondering who's this person. Yeah, that's fair.
Well, another reason, I'm sorry, I just want to
good.
point this out. Another reason I think it's Reyna is there's that moment with I'm sorry, I'm bad with names right now. Where Ren, Luke, I'm gonna call her Ren, Luke's not girlfriend, kind of.
He's a celibate Jedi.
That's true. The many non-girlfriends of Luke Skywalker traditions continue post Endor. Rin and Reyna, they have that kind of moment. She's like, blah 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 blah. Acolytes beyond, dark side. No, you gotta. Yeah. You don't see her get shot. There's no body. There's no. Well, Valhard, he's like bang. So it's like that. Rules of fiction narrative.
I looked that up. Sorry, go ahead.
Rules of narrative 101. Yep. You see the body of Adelhard, he's dead, but Reyna, she just vanishes from the story.
Yeah.
So methinks she gets away because you don't see the body, and she lives to go her own dark, crazy path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Reyna is definitely alive. I'm trying to see with Adelhard here. Well, I guess the ship explodes. Never mind. He dead.
Unless he got cloned on Exegol, I think he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Just recapping here. So again, tonally very interesting to have that. I've been incredibly hopeful. It's almost like the reverse of Revenge of the Sith. Then, tonally, I don't know why I'm bringing up this parallel. The baby makes you think of this. A baby Skywalker makes you think of this, right? Revenge of the Sith is so dark and ends so dark, and then you have this glimmer of light with the twins. This comic ends so light, and then you have with the baby, and then this glimmer of, or the shadow of, okay, things are still lurking. It's got to be, big bad. There's always has to be somebody. But yeah, I mean, it didn't feel like it was overwhelming, the sense of relief and putting a pin on this whole arc, this whole comic book. So it was more of almost a teaser for what's up next, which we'll get into again, I promise.
It's very.
Sorry,
I'll just say it is very much like the Aftermath books. I don't remember if you guys remember how those end, but they end with very much like the Empire has fallen. There are maybe remnants, but we're cleaning them up. The New Republic is born, and then the last chapter is, here's Ray Sloan. She finds the eclipse, and it's like, well, our first order of business is to rebuild the Empire my way. Dun, and then dun 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 dun.
Funny word.
So yeah, it's very kind of like that, except I think if that is Reyna, I don't think she's gonna be as a big threat compared to what the First Order is gonna become, because that was more tying in with the sequels. But in terms of the next villain of the arc, I think that's very much what they're going for.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's also interesting. You bring up Sloan, right? Because again, we get those moments where she's killing Rax. We don't quite see the eclipse, but we get the moment. That's straight from the book, right? That Rax telling Sloan, there's this ship, the eclipse. I clearly can't make it because you shot me, but go rebuild the Empire. Then of course, so that remember, so these tonal and thematic threads that are very consistent. My rant from last week or the other week, very consistent with what Chuck Wendig laid down. Chris, I'll throw this to you again. What did you think of the epilogue, of the ending of the book as a whole, of the comic, this issue?
Yeah, the epilogue was really interesting because it really sets seeds for the future of like dissension, of people not already agreeing with what's going on with the New Republic. People are already having like ideas. She offers, like, the key word I looked at was independence. It reminds me of like the separatist movement of, they're seceding from the Republic because they don't agree with what's happening. She's offering them this person, this colony, this planet, like, I'll give you weapons, I'll give you power, I'll give you that. You just have to. Then he's asking her, like, what do I need to give you? Like, everything, basically. So what is she? Who, she's her own entity, but where's she getting these resources from? Because we know in the First Orders out there in the unknown regions, there's no really connection to anybody out there. So, like, what faction is she tied in with? Like, she's the de facto leader of the Acolytes of Beyond, I guess, at this point, because Yupitashu dies, right?
Joel, what do you think? Do you remember if Yupitashu dies?
Yupitashu dies. It's a weird thing because of Shadow of the Sith that say he dies twice, but I don't quite understand that. But for now, he dead. Rax pushes him off a cliff, quite literally pushes him down to a cliff. He's dead. The Acolytes are still around. We know this because I think of Shadow of the Sith. I mean, at Empire falls, but there's still a lot of people still out there. I mean, not everybody went to the unknown regions. We know this because of Gideon and the Shadow Council, but also not everyone is necessarily like loyalty to the Empire. It's like, loyalty to me, I'll build something else. So, and forget the Empire and Palpatine. I'll just, here's some resources. I'll make my own kingdom, the kingdom of Miastan. So, you have now a bunch of just people with no leadership just running around all over the galaxy that the New Republic probably doesn't control. And there's probably still lots of old stockpiles and weapons around, and it's going to be a little messy. We see this in Mandoverse, and we'll probably see it in this comic.
I mean, especially Mandoverse, just very early on makes clear that the New Republic isn't able to have the kind of reach that even the Galactic Republic did, but definitely not the Empire. I mean, they don't want the kind of, they don't want the quality, they want the quantity of reach. They don't want the quality of reach that the Empire had. So definitely, yeah, picking up on the fact that these pockets, I mean, having Elioti in there is a good reminder. I think I brought this up last week too, that there are these entities out there, political, social, whatever groupings, some of them on a superstar destroyer, not on a planet. That can, I mean, a superstar destroyer can hold what? How many hundreds of thousands of people?
Like 1 million, probably.
Yeah, or something.
And that's the interesting thing. So going back to this, sorry to interject real quick, because I was a little surprised about how fast that character had to exit the battle. I thought they would play a much larger role in the battle, but in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you said maybe 1 million people. Maybe that superstar destroyer was staffed by about maybe 5,000 people. So they couldn't really operate that superstar destroyer at maximum efficiency. So they're just kind of like a giant floating city that's not doing a whole lot, just imposing, but it's not doing a whole lot. But from last week's issue, I was like, oh, the Adelhard ship is going to get crushed in 5 seconds. Yeah. And it did, that wasn't the case. She's just like, hey, I did the best I can. I'm out of here. See ya.
I mean, if anything, what their presence does is delays Adelhard enough for Han and Lando to show up, and show up. So that's there also again, but that's a reminder. They're not really willing to take that much of a loss. They're not willing to sacrifice themselves. They're willing to do their part and do what they can, but they got these interests. They got to go. They got to bail, make repairs. That's a good point. It's probably a skeleton crew, which for a superstar destroyer is probably a good amount of people, but it's a good point. Another thing, I guess this is another lore thing I want to bring up. It seems quick when we get to the battle somewhat, and that's partly, again, we'll talk about pacing of this comic book over as a whole, but like the reference of the battle lasted about 3 months. So I mean, I don't know, Joel, do you remember if that's in the Aftermath trilogy too?
Yeah, so the Battle of Jakku, it kind of goes in like you have the big battle that we see in the book and the comics, with Rex and all that, and that stuff takes place relatively pretty quick.
Okay,
and then once Rex and Sloane are gone, it's pretty much just all the crazy rabid Imperials that he left behind that don't want to give up because they know what happens if they give up, they're dead. So it's pretty much like almost like just a bunch of crazy Imperials still out there, and it's like just siege mentality at this point. And they're just gonna fight on till the bitter end. It's like I don't want to be too real world, but it's kind of like at the end of World War II. There were a lot of Japanese soldiers that actually didn't surrender, and on islands that still thought the war was going on for decades. It's a little like that. So it's not like, you have the big battle, the big organized battle, and then it's kind of just more like the grunts and insurgents and just
makes a lot of sense.
Like the cleaning up,
makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's like a planetary level. Like we're talking about people doing that with like a small country or a small island on our planet. Like that thing is not ending overnight. Like that's an entire planet, an entire fleet. Like we see the aftermath literally of in Force Awakens, the junkyard graveyard planet of Star Destroyers. And I like how that they added that little level of realism where it's like, this is not just ending because the Ravager crashed. There's plenty of holdouts there for months and months. I mean, we see in Battlefront 2, we see Versio command with the forget his first name, Admiral Versio, holding out for a while, but
and again, that speaks to the fanaticism that was already there and that will be there in a few decades. Just the place where the First Order trains their clone abducted children stormtrooper thing. Not clones, but
they're not clones.
They're not clones.
They're regular kids.
There's a conversation about introducing clones, but not the Star Destroyer or the stormtroopers. So that speaks to that. But what then surprises me though is that the Galactic Concordance has to happen after that. they have to wait. They actually have to clean everything up and make sure everything's in order. So that makes for the year. So really, this comic book only takes place in, well, here's the number, Ben Solo, 9 months. Which is great. I'm just realizing that now. Although I guess I don't know, whatever. They don't really say what month he was born in, but yeah, it's again, the time is, and we'll get to this in a minute very soon, but time in this whole comic book was just such an interesting pacing, was such an interesting thing, almost as interesting in the opposite way than the Hansicle. Because here's the wild thing, here's the thing, the comics from ESB to Return of the Jedi take place in about the same time frame as the comics from Endor.
Yeah,
the time from Endor to Jakku.
Yep.
And yet that one took us 4.5 years. This one took us 3 months.
4.5 years and a million big events all
Yeah.
in one.
Like,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And also, just to kind of just add a little bit, you know,
Mhm.
this year
Mhm.
isn't just covered by the comic; it's covered by the Aftermath trilogy,
Yeah.
Shattered Empire, the comic,
Yeah.
Alphabet Squadron, read that book, Princess and the Scoundrel, and Battlefront 2,
Yeah.
and this
Lost
comic,
Stars.
and Lost Stars. Thank you.
Yeah,
A little
but
bit. There's
Shattered
lots-
Empire, did you say that?
Yeah, it's Shattered Empire.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like that's
Mhm.
like 5, 6, 7 things,
Yeah.
things that have covered this time period and all
Yeah.
the little mini events that have been going on.
Yeah.
Busy year.
Yeah. So yeah, that's last stand number 4. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we move on to the wider look back?
Fun.
Yeah, very good stuff. Very good stuff. Echo what I said before. Is just this is how you end this thing. Stuff everybody between Reyna, between the bigger stuff, between all these characters, even like Theresa Learn. We didn't see a lot of her, but the one that stole a TIE fighter, like seeing a heroic sacrifice. So there is stakes. We do see a death of a character, a named character. So there is stakes in this. Things were the brief appearance of a young Armitage Hux.
Oh yeah,
Brendel Hux. There you go. That was a cool highlight right in the beginning of the issue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. I think one last thing to say. I say this all the time. Ending a story is so dang hard. It just you have to make sure everything you've plotted in, you sort it out. Skeleton Crew did that perfectly. I would say Alex Segura with and the artist and everyone did this so tremendously. So hats off to everyone involved. And last time, number 4. There we go. All right, I think it's time to have a wider discussion. Take a bit of time. We have a third thing to talk about, but think sometime. I got a bunch of notes here. This is kind of being this is going to kind of be Ion Cannon style, in that not so much going to look at. I would thought it could summarize Insurgency Rising, and then we'll talk about summarize Republic Under Siege. Talk about that. Summarize Last Stand. No. What we usually do at Iron Cannon, we talk about characters and talk about the overall arc throughout the story or whatnot. So I'm gonna stick with that way of thinking here. It's kind of how I roll. So first off, though, Joel, I'll throw this to you. You mentioned this quite a few times. What are your overall thoughts on this whole book, including the pacing? Sorry, pacing, the release order. The release timing, I should say, its relationship to the rest of the canon, as you listed off, and what it adds to the story.
Yeah. Overall, I thought this was a pretty enjoyable read. I think if I had to give like what I think they did the best, I think it was give a character whose only appearance was in a phone game.
Yep.
And make him the star. That's my hot take about this comic. This is Adelhard's story. I know we all like to think it's Luke's story and Han Solo's and Leia's, but I think this is my hot take. I think this is the Adelhard story. I think I think we have a villain protagonist in an odd sense. I mean,
good point.
You call Vader the villain protagonist of Star Wars. I believe Lucas is Star Wars to some extent. So I think this is his arc. I think it is the focus is. I would honestly even argue the focus is on him even more than it's on the big 3, even though the big 3 play a big part in it. I think we will probably see that difference a lot more when the main line comes back. It's sort of like how even if Luke and Leia appear, well, Han's not showing up, but if Luke and Leia appear in like the Crimson shorts that were happening back in last year, they're still Kira's stories.
Yeah.
And I would argue that this is Adelhard's storyline. This is Adelhard's arc through and through, and I think that is the best I can give to that. I think Alex Segura did his best to straddle the line between doing that Adelhard story and trying to intertwine it with a pretty well fleshed out year. There's only so much we can do at this point, for sure. And I think he did the best he could. Because again, I think there are things that, at least as someone who has read the Aftermath book, I don't know how these things would play out as well without reading the Aftermath trilogy, especially on the Rax Sloan side of scenes where it's like, I feel like you're getting the Some Notes version of like, okay, this is what the Empire was kind of more or less doing, but we don't have time for all the depth stuff. Go read the book for that. Almost feel like they should read Aftermath to find out more about this. But overall, I think it's interesting. And obviously there's definitely set up for the future with Reyna. It's Reyna, right? Creepy smiley lady.
Yeah. Rin.
Rin.
Oh, yeah, Reyna Segura. Yeah. Rin and Reyna. I know. Too close of names for these two female.
I know. Reyna, which I just call it creepy smiley lady. Probably setting her up for sure. And all that, but I would say it worked for me, at least overall. And I think if you look at this as an Adelhard story first before a Luke Han and Leia focused story, then I think this works. Because again, I think Adelhard is our villain protagonist of this story. I mean, it kind of starts with him and it ends with him, and his legacy is creepy smiley lady. So yeah, that's how I would describe it, and I liked it. I liked it overall.
Yeah. That's not a controversial take. I would agree with that. Definitely an incredible choice, I think, to say, hey, here's a Luke, Han, and Leia. Here's Luke, Han, and Leia in a Star War, and yet so much energy focuses on this other guy who comes from a mobile game. Before we dive, I do want to go into Adelhard specifically, but Chris, I was really wondering, we talk about comics coming out every month, and the frequency of comics that come out. Sometimes things get missed, and release orders, and not release orders, but release orders get bungled up, or like I remember, Dark Droids, what a mess. Then that got it missed, and then some weeks we have maybe one comic. Next week we have 6, 4 of them from Dark Horse. What was it like? What do you think? What was it like to get a comic just about every week? And that pacing that does blow through this year so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. I hope Marvel. First of all, they succeeded. There was no catch-ups, any fouls. Like, it was standard, like 3, maybe 4 issues a month. We were consistently getting these things.
Even maybe with the Great Diamond Meltdown of all that.
Yeah, all that happening, crazy. But like, I absolutely loved it. I hope they look at this data and show that, like, hey, we could do this more often. When we have a big event, we could put out stuff weekly, because I think it does help a lot. And it really helped that this was the era that I like a lot anyway to begin with. So I was already waiting on bated breath, seeing how things were going to connect. I think there was really good pacing. There were great like moments such as Afra showing up or Han showing up, where it's like, oh, I can't wait till next week, because like really good, like on the edge of your seat kind of moments in the comic books. And it really felt like, as we were watching Skeleton Crew every week, we're also getting a new Battle of Jakku story every week. So from that regard, I know it's not easy. That's why they have multiple artists on this, to kind of speed up the process rather than the regular ongoing. So there was different things implemented here to make sure that would be assured that they would come out on time every week. But yeah, they proved that they could do 12 issues in 3 months, and I think they nailed it. Yeah.
One thing I hope to ask ask Alex Segura one day is, how does this contrast with your normal writing pace? Because I mean, I don't know. I gather some authors like to write out a whole arc, or write out, or do they just do work on one at a time or something? I don't know what he does, but this one I gather he had to at least get the whole arc, each of the 4-issue arcs, each of the 3 4-issue arcs is what I'm trying to say, done out in one time, which makes for an incredibly fluid story, right? I mean, I was thinking today, okay, is that in Last Stand 4 or is that in Last Stand 3? Remember when we were doing 2 and 3 together, and I was like, oh, I can't tell the two, but I don't remember, because it just blends together so perfectly, so seamlessly. Definitely, Joel, I definitely get your point about if people hadn't read the Aftermath trilogy, if they maybe reading the Wikipedia article, but getting a sense of why everything with Rax and Sloan is so important for the galaxy in this time and in the future, in a couple decades. They might be a bit lost. It's true, because it definitely does jump. It definitely does assume, even the attack on Trent, the bigger bombing on Chandrila, which is a major part of Life Debt, right? That is, that just gets zoomed forward. Now we do have, interestingly though, we do have a smaller attack on Chandrila that we'll talk about later, but that also plays up the sense of threat. But yeah, I wonder. I'd be curious to see folks who hadn't read this, what they think, or hadn't read the Aftermath trilogy, what they think. I mean, it might stand alone, because that's the thing is, like Luke isn't very much in the Aftermath trilogy at all. Han does a bit, Leia does a good chunk.
They're
but
in Life Debt quite a bit.
Yeah, they're more in Life Debt. That trilogy, of course, is the main characters are the Wexleys and their crew there, and then everything they get swept up into the bigger story. So this one, I mean, part of the rationale for this comic was to say, well, what was occupying Luke and Leia's attention so much? What was occupying Mon Mothma's attention so much, alongside everything that we see in Life Debt, especially, and Empire's End? It was this Adelhard character.
Mm-hmm.
It was everything he was building, his coalition. And so I do want to jump into him now, because Joel, you're right, he was the main character of this comic. Surprisingly, wasn't expecting that. This character again from a mobile game.
Yep, Star Wars.
Yeah, which one was it called again?
Gosh, what is it called? I forget the name.
Remember,
Uprising. Star Wars Uprising.
Right. And then, of course, there's a bit of an interlude in the Aftermath trilogy there about him on Cloud City. But he's introduced in right off the top there, right off the hop, and he has this motivations and backstory about being this tool of the Empire. This great, very useful figure. And that's what the Empire teaches is usefulness. If you can be useful to the Emperor and to the Empire, then maybe you'll get far. And then, of course, we see, turns out his usefulness was to be a distraction and a pawn. And the real usefulness ultimately was if Palpatine could survive, but if not, then Rax can clear the deck. And so we see that great shift in him to giving up and saying, nope, got to burn it all down. Got to let it all go. And so he has this ultimate goal of, destroying both the New Republic and the Imperial Remnant. And so, but then, of course, that also underpins how is the main character, that he dies at the end, right? I think if he had more story going forward, that might weaken or cheapen his importance in this comic, because he's made his mark here. He's made his mark. He's left a dent, also causing a threat, or he's tried to, I should say. He's tried to make his mark, but all that does is end up bringing Luke, Han, and Leia into the fight more closely. then of course he has this this rivalry then with the Imperial Remnant and Operation Cinder. What I found fascinating about Adelhard is that he ends up having the same goal as Rax, but from the opposite direction, right? Rax is coming from Palpatine himself, whereas Adelhard is against Palpatine. Then oddly enough, you have Sloane, who wants to save some version of the Empire, that's this idealized version of the Empire that Rax never believed in, that Adelhard has given up on. And so Adelhard really becoming this third figure in this whole question conversation. So, Chris, I'll throw it to you. What do you think of, Joel, you mentioned this a bit, but you can respond after Chris. But throw it to you. What do you think of Adelhard with his motivations, his introduction, choosing him as in the first place, and his ultimate goals and ultimate demise?
Yeah, I thought he was a really strong character in the beginning. He really felt like he had his stuff together. Just his command chain was in effect. He had power. He was holding on to this Anouis sector with everything he had. Just the complete derision against the New Republic. Telling these people they're just rebels. They're not going to mean much. Just shutting down all the communication. It's interesting because he is just almost like a typical warlord, like all these other warlords. Joel, you had mentioned a warlord. It's giving us a viewpoint of just one of many Imperials that are like him, essentially. Like there's a lot of other Imperial holdouts across the galaxy that have been just grasping for power. As soon as Palpatine and Vader got, I was like, okay, it's my time to shine. Here we go. I'm deluded by delusions of grandeur here. Try to figure out this is my time to hold on to things. But then we get to see his falling and his mad as he delves into madness, essentially, which was a good turn when he's left for dead. But he was what is the Trandoshan's name? I always forget. Someone like it's KR Krenog or Kronos or something.
Krenog or whatever.
Krenog or something like that. Helps him escape in an escape pod instead of assassinating him. And then from that moment on, he becomes like the mad rabid dog.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he becomes like this mad rabid dog that doesn't have much calculation in his plans other than just let's just go ahead and destroy everything that we can. Just out of vengeance and out of retribution. Doesn't have as much like of a scalpel, kind of just goes in with a hammer and just starts smashing things up. And towards the end there, I wasn't really sure what the heck he was trying to do, like what he would do with the power. But it was interesting. It was interesting. I really liked where they went with him in the first arc, with Insurgency Rising. But then during Republic Under Siege, it started to wear thin on me. I feel like they were kind of, and that's part of the reason why I didn't like Republic Under Siege as much as the other two arcs. It's just, it felt like they were treading a lot of ground with him over and over again, like multiple scenes. The kind of the stuff with Reyna Skura that was like flirting with him. They had an affair kind of thing going on, but there was weird power dynamics happening. So I wasn't like sold completely on him in the end, but and he really didn't match against Luke at all. I feel like Luke was never in any kind of like danger when he was going one-on-one against the guy. So all in all, he's just going to be remembered as another fallen warlord of the Empire trying to bring back the good old days.
Yeah, that Republic Under Siege definitely has a turn, because it also has a turn towards the wider conflict in that, right? So his importance gets less. Of course, his fall, his foundations are crumbling. Very symbolic that he's yeeted out in an escape pod and to crash onto a planet there. He's literally hits rock bottom, right? So again, I get what you mean in terms of what it's kind of like the thing that we latch onto with him in terms of just his ability. He's him trying to gather power and coalesce, get a coalition together to consolidate. That's the word I'm looking for. Turns out, that starts to fall apart, and we feel that falling apart it's maybe fascinating that he's still, I mean, he's still heroic in that he stands up and continues to fight despite that, takes over the Star Destroyer again, um, ends up taking a fleet to Jakku, but then the groups in his orbit end up betraying him. Again, you mentioned with Reyna and the Acolytes of the Beyond being his kind of agents, but also having their own sort of weird dark side interests going on, as I think we'll probably see in the epilogue to Last Stand 4. And like I mentioned, that they're able to send that that character to I forget his name to potentially assassinate Leia, ends up killing an operative.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that it carrying that on. So having that tentacle there, and then the spice version of Kijimi showing up in this, and at first they're with Adelhard. They're there, which I always thought was weird, and partly because we have in Rise of Skywalker we have Zori Bliss,
Mm-hmm.
who is a trustworthy character more or less, and Poe Dameron being a trustworthy character, of course. Alex Segura has done quite a bit to develop this grouping.
Yeah.
And so to see them continue here, as part of as the beachhead to Adelhard's Underworld strategy. How's it going, Tyler? Good to see you there. Part of Adelhard's Underworld strategy. Joel, this was fascinating that he really wants to, unlike a lot of the Empire, at least officially, he officially wants to say, hey, Acolytes of the Beyond, come around. Spice Riders of Kijimi, come around. Maybe if you see anyone, if you want to pick up anyone on the way, wants to join the cause, under my rule, of course. What do you think of Adelhard relying on these groups and these characters that ultimately betray him for good?
I just think that's just typical Imperial warlord finesse, because that's what a lot of these warlords do. I mean, that's how they did in Legends, where it's like, okay, the Empire proper is fractured. Everyone's kind of now trying to get as much as they can get. So, they're making alliances with people they may have never thought of making alliances with. They're stocking up weapons. They're getting money. They're entering, the spice trades. They probably already were. Just trying to carve up their little mini empires and consolidate power as best as possible. Oh, and by the way, the Spice Runners of Kijimi also appear big time in the Poe Dameron Freefall book.
By Alex Segura.
So that's another thing.
Good book, everybody.
Yeah, that's what I meant when Alex Segura has done a lot of work. Yeah.
Okay, so that doesn't surprise me. I mean, even Gideon is allied with the pirates in Mandoverse, so there's that. And I think what's interesting about Adelhard is he thinks of himself as being able to join with the big boys, with the Throns and the Tarkins, these people who, if they were alive, probably would have. I'm not going to say this could save the Empire, because I think the Empire would have been defeated anyway. Regardless, let's not act as if empires are forever. They don't, especially fascistic ones. But if Palpatine croaked or exploded, people like if Tarkin
or get chucked down a
down a shaft. Someone like a Tarkin or a Thrawn probably could have coalesced a larger group of officers and governors based off their own personality and prestige to at least cause more trouble than just the complete fracturing into almost a bajillion different factions. I mean, heck, we're seeing this in Mandoverse right now. Like the Imperial Remnant's big gamble is, hey, get Thrawn back, because he's probably the only person alive right now who can unite all these warlords, because he's the last of the Grand Admirals. And ultimately, with Adelhard, you see oh no, he's not a big deal. He is actually kind of sad and pathetic, and he just goes nuts, and it all kind of crumbles before even the official dissolving of the Empire. He can't even hold his own little mini empire for much longer, and I think it's an interesting arc to go on for sure. But also, it's I don't know, a lot of these people are kind of sad. It's just some are more craftier than others.
It definitely comes across ultimately as a very desperate move. Oddly enough, because I mean it's part of his strategy at the beginning with the Spice Runners and the overall Underworld. But it comes off ultimately this desperate thing, grasping at straws, which is odd given. Is Luke doesn't seem desperate when he does that. The New Republic doesn't seem desperate. Maybe they're more realistic, right? Maybe that's the difference. Is Adelhard thinks he can bring them to heal, whereas my sense with Luke, and we'll get into Luke very soon. Actually, maybe we can allied and go into Luke here now. His going to Tommaso in the Spice Runner, working with Rin. Turns out she's a rebel and a Spice Runner at the same time.
Yeah, crazy.
That was really really fascinating to show where they're at. These underworld groups. Maybe this is a legacy of the Mandalorian, where you have hero bounty hunters. You have bounty hunters who, yes, the job, but they have a very strong moral compass in doing that job. And that ultimately, of course, leads Din Djarin to be involved in the quest to retake Mandalore and establish a Mandalorian community there. There is still the sense, and I brought this up before, the New Republic at its is wise. Mon Mothma is wise to be aware that they won't be able to have the reach and control that the Old Republic did, that the Empire did, whereas Adelhard's still trying to grasp on it. And so here's Luke going to Tommaso, being like, "No, we gotta go. I gotta go to Jakku. I gotta go help. What am I doing here?" He still has this not craving adventure, but this restlessness to him, this urgency. And yet he still does. He takes time out of his busy urgent schedule to go and get the Spice Runners on the Republic side. It's clear, even more than in Soul's Run, he's exploring. He's still trying to find out his legacy, his origins, his roots. Is this whole thing about Vader being his father still true, or is it true? His roots, what does it mean to have this Jedi training in a galaxy that is, well, first under this Sith, effectively a Sith empire. It's not officially a Sith empire, I know that, but Sith controlled empire, I should say. But then now in this battle, Battle of Endor, right? We see that the great shakeup of everything, and through that, in the middle of that, and the climax of that, he has an experience with his father, with Anakin, and it seems to have deepened him. And real credit to Alex Segura for plotting through this character growth from Soul's Run to the events of Return of the Jedi. That Charles does a brilliant job, and Greg Pak does a brilliant job building up to, and then say, okay, now when confronting Adelhard in both Insurgency Rising 4 and Last Stand 4, at the end of both of those arcs, trying to suss him out, but also trying to convince him to say, you don't have to do this. Like you said, he's in control in that moment. Even though Adelhard thinks he can be. Definitely, Adelhard in that place serves as a foil to show how far Luke has come. And also this moment with Kijimi shows how far Luke has come. So, and then of course we can talk about teaming up with Rin and Afra, and those interesting character things. Another more development with Afra. Chris, I'll throw this to you. What do you think of Luke's story in this comic?
Oh man, this is the big drawing point for me to this comic book series in general. Was, oh my gosh, this is our first post Return of the Jedi Luke story in the comics, essentially. So there's a lot of pressure on Alex's shoulders to really give us our first glimpse on how Luke feels, how he responds to people, right? Going from that 2015 run of wide-eyed farmer boy, exploring the galaxy with his buddies, to now being a wizened, very stoic, but very insightful and very purposeful leader that's a lot more spiritual, but that makes a lot more sense, a lot more logical and rational. It was great to see. I think he did a great job of really transitioning that Luke from that end of Return of the Jedi, like just helping his father and really trying to turn away, throwing his lightsaber away, turning away from the dark side, and being a lot more of that Jedi Knight that we know he became, and we're gonna see him using those personality, those mannerisms firsthand here, trying to save Adelhard, not giving up on him even though he's a sworn enemy. All these sort of things that a Jedi would envision and kind of become. Yeah. So it was great. You get to really see Luke in a different phase of his life, and I think what he did made a lot of sense. Trying to talk. I love the scenes too when it's him and Rin talking about Rin, especially in this issue. Rin was getting angry because one of her friends just died, and he's talking about vengeance and how vengeance doesn't actually solve anything in the end. In the moment, it might feel good, but down the road, it's not going to do much for the solution. So he has really sage, wise advice for somebody that is, I think at this point, what is he, like 25 years old maybe at this point in his life? Like he is very wise for his years, and that's to be expected for a Jedi Knight. So like phenomenal stuff. It's great to see him at that point of his life and going forward from here.
Yeah, I mean, also to add that that level in Battlefront 2.
Oh yeah, Pilio. Yep.
The other Pilio level. Yeah, we see more of that. It's almost a Qui-Gon, right? Even in his willingness to work with the Underworld, most Jedi of the late Republic, especially, would just be, why am I working with these people?
I think a lot of Jedi work with the Underworld a lot of the time.
Oh, maybe. Well, I guess Mace Windu would have. Yeah.
First episode of Clone Wars is them making a deal with Jabba, so
true. I think some would, but even okay, let me save that comment. I think some would be like, oh, I guess we have this kind of take care of business here and gotta do this Jedi business, gotta go. No, he genuinely sees them as possible allies. And of course, I mean, we got balance in here. We didn't quite get Tonga, but we would have made sense. But we got like I said, we got Chelly also being more of the heroic character again. She isn't out to snatch whatever he has here, tosses it back, that compassy thing. I forget what it was. So yeah, Joel, what did you think of Luke's story in this book?
I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good sneak peek. I don't know if I was as impressed with all the returning characters, quite frankly, because they're kind of there and then they're done because it's not really their story. It's not their focus. It was nice seeing them for sure. It's sort of like with Afra. It's like Afra kind of comes, give her the thing. We don't really have them talk as much. Like, again, I would love to see Afra's reaction to finding out Vader was dead. That would have been fun. But no, I mean, I thought Luke was well written and all that. Very Return of the Jedi, kind of like he's had his kind of moment now. He's kind of done his OG mission statements. He's leveled up. Sorry, I had to sneeze there. So that was nice. Seeing him stuff with Rin. If I had kind of one critique of our heroes overall, is I kind of felt early on like they were always like, I thought the war was over and I thought we defeated the Empire, and I'm like, guys, that I don't know what you thought the Empire's strength was, but they're an empire. You might have killed the Emperor, but they still got billions of troopers and Star Destroyers. I don't think that's how it works, where you kill the Emperor. Like, come on, Leia, you should be smarter than that. Emperor, what about all the bureaucracy and the agents?
No, it is. It's one of those things where they put it this way through this view lens. They threw everything they had at the Death Star too. Like imagine like you just went through hell and back again. There was a good chance that you're all gonna die, and you survived. You killed the Emperor, and you're like having a celebration. The last thing you really want to hear or think about is, oh yeah, we have another million or so Star Destroyers to deal with. Like that's not in their mind at the moment. They're like they're so relieved that they killed the Emperor.
Yeah.
They don't want to think about the possibility of this thing dragging out for another year plus. So, but yeah, I think from that perspective, that's how I would like rationalize it in my head. No.
I mean, I get what you're saying, Joel. It's definitely. I mean, that's what something Chuck Wendig goes into, right? That Coruscant scene at the beginning of the first Aftermath. Leia needs a vacation.
It's true.
A novel by Beth Revis. Yeah.
Also, that was a good moment to see that moment from that book kind of come in as well.
Yeah.
If I again another little critique is that I almost wish there were certain moments where that could have just been entire arcs of comic book runs. And maybe that's what we'll get when we get the main line. So I'm kind of not going to hold this comic accountable for that. But there are like moments where it's like, ooh, can we let this moment breathe and like just have a whole moment of like, I don't know, Leia and Luke talking, or again, I want my Afra finds out Vader's dead and just had the party all day, like that a whole issue. So you know, there's this definitely is very a plot heavy kind of story for sure as somewhat of an event, a comic. But no, I mean, I thought Luke was well written.
Yeah,
and, I thought it'll be interesting to see if he and Rin continue their very platonic relationship.
You know, dudes and women can be friends. It's fine. Yeah, just to go back to the pacing question. I wonder if, I mean, the limitations of 23 pages, like we said, except for the first issues, the limitations of saying there's going to be 4 issue arcs. If they could have had more flexibility about that, I wondered where the way the numbering was going to be at first. If there's going to be some more flexibility about that. If they could have even had the flexibility to bump it to maybe 30 pages per issue or something. Just like agreed to let, or not every issue, but to let things breathe a little more. To have a little more scenes from the Aftermath trilogy, just to give a little more context. But
I feel like I mean, you know, I think my critique is with some moments, not every moment, of course, but with some moments, the book feels both too big and too short at the same time. And it's kind of a weird thing for me. I read somebody that apparently Marvel has this thing where they want to appeal to both individual comic buyers and trade collectors, and that's why sometimes when they wrap things up, it feels very short. But yeah, it's like there are moments where I'm like, ooh, can this be longer? Like, I don't even need them to recreate moments from Aftermath. I would just like a couple of pages of, again, just Afra and Luke talking about Vader's dead. The guy that kind of haunted you for years is dead. How's Afra going to feel? I know Afra's not the focus of the story, but at the same time, it's like you're kind of doing this kind of big mega event story that's kind of going in a bunch of places. It'd be nice to have like maybe just a couple extra pages, please.
Maybe even there will be another Afro one. There's got to be.
I'm sure. I hope so.
And they gotta pick up on that. And that'll be good. Chris, you want to chime in?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, that's definitely something I was thinking about too. Like, wait, what was the point of this cameo? Just to tell you that you had this item that the acolytes want, and it's like, well, okay, we knew that kind of thing. It was pretty obvious. It was just okay. This character's alive. Same thing with Violent Valence, jumping in cryptically hinting at, there's some unrest in the unknown regions. Well, maybe we'll get more of that. There's a thing there.
That's true.
But kind of just looking at the big gripe for me, looking at a macro level of this whole thing, Insurgency Rising, Republic Under Siege, Last Stand, all wrapped around underneath the umbrella of the Battle of Jakku. And we literally seen the Battle of Jakku for like a couple panels. Like I would have loved to see like boots on the ground in the sands of Jakku. Actual like gritty kind of combat, but like we were barely at Jakku for something called the Battle of Jakku. I think they should have. I know they wanted to have that for the clicks and all that, for
Yeah,
social
the
media. Battle of
sales,
Jakku, it sounds epic, but I feel like that was not the best choice of a title for this thing.
Yeah, that's a
even
good point. It's a good
even
deal.
like the politics stuff of it. I mean, obviously, I think if you want kind of the deeper politics of the
Mhm.
aftermath era,
Mhm.
read the aftermath book or Alphabet
Yeah.
Squadron. But it's like okay, we gotta get the Senate to approve, and then it's like Senate approved. It's like I don't know. I feel it's like a few more pages to let it breathe. Maybe we could have seen the vote in comic book form.
Yeah.
That would have been kind of cool to see. I don't think we actually see the vote in the book either.
No.
And like
No.
even some plot points, like Sinjir, Mon Mothma's imperial aide.
Yeah.
He's not even in this thing. I think.
No, he's not.
Um,
Great
so that
character, by the way.
so that entire plot point's been cut
Yeah.
out from this comic, and I know you have to time and focus, and
Mhm.
some things aren't the focus, but there are moments where it's like it's trying to do big things, but the page count is
Yeah.
undermining it.
Yeah, a little
Mhm.
bit. Yeah, I get all those things. I mean, I think with balance, with Afra kind of reminding us that she's still kicking around. Balance, yeah. I mean, another thing is, and we'll get to this soon, I promise. Is it's seeding things in that other authors can take on, or that Alex himself is going to take on. And so just to set this up now, yeah, I agree. It would be good to have more. That was kind of my point with the Afra thing. I get what you mean. I definitely get the whole Battle of Jakku title. I wondered that at the beginning, like, well, okay, it's going to be at the end there. But yeah, if it sells, it sells. Let's hope. I do, but we haven't talked about Leia yet. I do want to talk about Pregoleo kicking butt. Pregolea. Say that 3 times fast. Kicking butt, taking names. Again, I've made a lot of this. I don't know if I wonder if I'm making too much of this, just because we've never seen her, at least in canon. I don't know, seen her pregnant, and of course she's definitely holding her own.
Fear and Legend's pregnant.
Yeah, that's fair. But in comics and visuals.
No, in comics and visuals, in Legends,
Yeah.
we see her pregnant.
Oh, sure. Okay, fair.
Oh.
In canon, we haven't seen her. She's still military leader. She's commanding the fleet, like you said, at Jakku, or from Chandrila. More of the military leader than in the original trilogy, I think. She's there, but Riken's there, and others are there, and of course, in Return of the Jedi, she's on the ground in Endor, helping out. Her and Han are kind of together on the plan. We see a bit of guidance from Mon Mothma, a bit of her to Leia, but more of that in the Aftermath trilogy. The politics, we're forming a government now line that I keep remembering. But here Leia really takes the stage, and what I was talking about, how she is, Han and Ben. Well, Han is a supporting character to her, and that's fairly consistent. And of course, Han only shows up a little bit in this. And that she gives Han a reason. The scoundrel with a heart. The scoundrel's gone. The scoundrel is shed, for now at least. He calls him home. The situation, the family grounds Han with purpose, courage, urgency to go to Jakku. And then also we see her as the intelligence head. She's liaising with barons and Ares, or heirs, whoever, when she who dies, protecting her effectively. Even I think there's some liaising with Alacia, who we haven't mentioned much. Alacia, great character, and mourns their deaths and is invested in that side of things. I know in the Resistance, 3PO who doesn't show up with this at all. Destroys that. 3PO is the head of. He pops up. Okay.
He pops up in the background. That the whole Star Wars crew's in that image with Ben Solo, I think, at the end.
I mean, it isn't the Star Wars without 3PO and R2, of course, but that.
Yep, there they are.
Yeah, in the Resistance, 3PO is the head of intelligence, but here, basically, Leia, she's got the operatives going. So really, I mean, I think setting up for her to really be the lead. Of course, we don't see that in the Mandoverse. Haven't seen her yet. in live action. But I thought, yeah, it was really a culmination of everything from the original trilogy. Oddly enough, everything, she's gone from this younger princess who, taken her parents' ship to to transmit the plans of Death Star. Parents are gone, her planet's gone. Charles sold out with that as well, and now she's free to really be, again, who she'll become. We'll see her be as General Leia in 30 years. She's starting that here. So, Chris, I'll throw this to you. What did you think of Leia's story in this book?
Yeah, it was fantastic seeing her in even being pregnant and still, not taking a break, like being in the thick of it, wanting to be involved and just not letting that stop her as far as, so like she's headstrong, she's a bit demanding, but she wants to think about it. Like she just battled for her life the last several years trying to defeat the Empire. You have the Rebel Alliance, a whole bunch of different groups of people together to fight for a cause. Now it's like, okay, how do we make a legit government out about this? How do we bring these people together and start to actually govern rather than just to fight and resist? Now we actually have to set the rules, the boundaries, while we're still fighting these people. And then, like, I love that moment towards the end where she's on Sandrilla getting attacked by the Acolytes Beyond, and she's still effing kicking butt and taking names. Like, that is so Leia. The fact that she could hold her own, even when Han Solo comes in to kind of save the day, or at least assist her, she still was like, oh, yeah, it took you long enough. Like, I love the banter, love the writing. I think it just really, again, another great characterization of a character from Return of the Jedi going right to this point. So, really deep stuff. Even like we mentioned a couple of times, just the Princess and the Scoundrel moment of her on Endor with Vader's mask. Right. I wanted to see a little bit more of like the Force explained with her, and maybe we'll get that into the ongoing, I hope. But good stuff for Leia.
Yeah. It's almost like she needs to be convinced to take a break, but the break itself has to involve some political maneuvering, getting planets to join the New Republic, a novel by Beth Revis. Joel, what did you think of Leia in this book?
Yeah, I guess I wasn't that impressed with the whole pregnancy thing because, like, all right, so I've seen Leia be pregnant and fight the Emperor.
It's not
too new. It's a lightsaber, so that's typical. Not that surprising. I honestly forgot about the Jedi training because, like, she's supposed to train before Ben Solo's born, and then she stops because she realizes she's pregnant. So, when did that happen?
Wait, really? I thought he was already born at that point.
No, it's before. That's what at least I remember.
I gotta crack open my Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary. Look at the timeline again.
It's interesting that if it's right off the hop. I don't know. I thought it was later too, but
no, I think it's before. At least that's what I remember. What the movie said.
That seems so blatantly like obvious that they would have put something in there in the comic if it was that clear. So that's why I'm wondering. Yeah. I thought it was like she had a calling through the Force that her young son was going to become evil, so she stopped.
I remember that. I always thought it was before she gave birth. I'll have to check.
Yeah,
so outside of that, no, I mean, I thought Leia was pretty par for the core of the Aftermath books for sure. It's one of those things where again, it's one of those things where it's like again, maybe a couple more pages would have been nice.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, according to Wikipedia, it's before Ben's born. So we missed something there.
That's good.
But I mean, it's pretty par for the course of that. Again, I feel like the politics stuff wasn't as focused on again because I feel like it was very one of those. The comic just didn't have enough pages to really go into.
There are 3 novels on that already.
That too, and there are 3 novels on that. So we're kind of good. We kind of just need to get the broad strokes going here. Maybe we can get the main line later. But no, I mean it was pretty par for the course. Good Leia writing and overall. I mean, it's kind of that's Leia. That she's still working herself to the bone. Because that's what her dad, Bail Organa, would want her to do. Or maybe not. I think maybe Bail would be like, take a break, honey. I think he would be more concerned for her self-care.
It's consistent. Yeah.
Mom but safe or alive.
Mhm.
But no, it's pretty consistent with the character and pretty well overall.
Yeah, I mean, we do get more of her than of Luke for sure. I mean, we get her in. I mean, you can play her in Aftermath or in Battlefront too, right? Or at least you get that moment. She's in Shattered Empire.
Yeah, she's in the boo.
She's on Naboo, yeah, on Naboo and Shattered Empire. So
She's probably
we-
pregnant there too. So
we've had more of her. And again, I think we're referring to that. Possibly, I don't know if you're referring to was it Agent Kloss, had that flashback in Rise of Skywalker.
yeah, that was
Let's see.
before she given birth.
So we've had again. The whole
Wait,
novel
no,
with
it
her.
still works. It still works. I'm looking it up. It says
All right.
5 ABY.
Okay.
5 ABY. It says soon after, and 5 ABY are going to discontinue her training after she told Skywalker that she had
Okay.
sensed the death of her son.
Okay.
So, it's like 3 years from Battle of Endor to.
ABY. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So there's still another year. I think they could tell. I think the math checks out. I think there's still a year in this ongoing comic where we can get that.
Yeah. Fair.
Uh-huh.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Bringing Ben Solo into this, as this symbol of
The
hope.
Adventures of a 2-year-old.
There you go. We haven't mentioned Lando as much. Pretty Yeager in the squad. Just very quickly, Joel, you're our Resistance fan. The show, yeah, Resistance. What do you think? I said Lando and Pretty also, but bringing Yeager in, there we go.
Yeah, that was awesome.
He doesn't do much, but
It
yeah.
doesn't do much, but it's just nice. It's just nice to be remembered.
Yes.
I'll just say a little hint. I'm hoping that the ongoing brings in a certain a senator's dad from Resistance.
Yes, that'd
Who's
be
also in Ahsoka.
although yeah, he's in live action, so you never know.
Never know.
Okay, anything else I missed? Kind of any last?
I'll just
thoughts
say.
overall?
I'll just say this is an easy recommend for any Star Wars fan getting into comics. I mean, you have any fan of Star Wars, they're gonna want to know, okay, what happened with Luke, Han, Leia after Jakku? Because it's such an easy sell to anybody. Everybody's always asking me,
Right.
where do I start with the comics and books? This is gonna be probably number up there on the top 5. Like, okay, pick up Rise of Kylo Ren, pick up War of the Bounty Hunters, pick up this, pick up. There's a couple highlighted things I would say, and this is an easy go-to because it's just something I think most Star Wars fans want to know is like, oh, what happens after the events of Return of the Jedi. I think it does a good enough job with kind of summarizing all the other events that happened around it, so people don't have to read 3 books to figure that out. It's an easy, digestible form of media. Just 12 issues. You can get through this in a weekend reading through all this. So for those casual fans out there, I think this is an easy recommend on my end.
I'll agree if with the caveat that people read a Wikipedia article or something or two, just to know what Rax and Sloan were up to. But yeah, otherwise know what Luke and Leia were up to for sure. Definitely takes you through. I don't know, Joel, do you have any last thoughts? What do you think of this as a recommend?
Ooh, I don't know. I actually would recommend this as one of the later ones to read, honestly. I don't think this does work for casuals. I think this is built upon a lot of continuity.
Because it's built upon in the
Aftermath, and also just the last 2 issues of last kind of 10 years of comics, honestly. No one can understand that for a moment.
True.
I don't think.
Well, you don't really need to. I mean, it's the whole thing is like this is just a side character. It's not really pertinent to the story as much.
Maybe that's why they kept it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I feel like if that's the case, then she shouldn't have been in it at all. If I'm gonna be quite blunt.
Maybe I was saying that's why they kept it light on that.
Well, here's the thing. I think if you're a Star Wars comic reader, you've probably seen images of her.
Yeah.
And you've probably heard friends talking about, oh yeah, this character Dr. Aphra. So like when they see her, they're gonna be like, oh, that's that character. Let me go pick up like some stories of Dr. Aphra. Like it's, they only have so much real estate in these, but it's like fun little moments. Same thing with Byron Valance, and now that we know he's going to be like in the next couple years worth of comics, hopefully it's going to be like, okay, there's that other cool character. Like these are meant. This is. I feel like this is a good gateway comic series because it's going to get people like maybe interested in those stories, and then they could go ahead and like read the Aftermath books if I really want to. I don't think you need to know about those are just, in my eyes, there's just other Imperials doing other things that are trying to go against this other guy. Like, these are all bickering people. That's really all you need to know. You don't have to actually figure out like this guy's grand plan. He's just another Imperial that wants to reinstate the Empire after Palpatine said. You don't really have to go much further in detail than that. If they did do that in this comic, it would get way too convoluted, and it might lose people. So I feel like the way they did it was probably fine for the casual people.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. Well, I'll have to be a casual person and recommend.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, overall, I mean, the book was pretty good. I mean, again, you know, some pacing moments, moments I felt like it does everything. Couldn't we have like a few longer ones, like the first issues of these little arcs, which were always, honestly, those were always my favorite. The first ones of every, they were longer and they had like the whole Alhard thing, which I always liked, I always enjoyed. But no, I thought this was good, you know, and kind of again, my kind of controversial take is this is an Alhard story before it really is a Luke and Leia story. He's the main character. He's the villain protagonist of this arc, and he is the focus, even more so than even Luke and Leia are to a certain extent. I mean, they get their moments, but I think Alhard is the focus of the arc.
Yeah, he has the most developed story in this,
right?
Which is interesting. I mean, to the question of it being an introductory book, if you will, like something to get casual readers in. You know, this is something I brought up on Monday in our conversation about accessibility in Star Wars stories. There's also an appeal to giving just enough to then make people curious and make people work for learning more.
Exactly.
Maybe that's the thing that motivates us as fans, is we have this mindset of, we have this main story, but there's also this other side thing. I want to read more of that going on. I mean, that's the thing, why it works, that sets all things up for the next bit. Getting to very soon, I promise. But I'll be curious. I mean, my go-to number one, of course, would be Charles Soule's 2017 run, Vader. That's for me in Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, I definitely can see, you know, I mean, that's the way this is doing what Trusa Pakura did, right? You know, or at least
not really. I think this does better. I think Shattered Empire does that better.
Okay, well, in the sense of, you know, what's next, what happens next for the main characters. I think it was kind
I wouldn't even say Trusa Pakura does that pretty well. I think the Thrawn trilogy originally does that better.
Sure, yeah, okay, the Thrawn trilogy, right? Not the Thrawn trilogy. But I mean, especially like immediately after. So fair enough. All right. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts before we move on?
No, I'm pretty good.
All right. Drum roll, please. We have news. We've mentioned it multiple times.
We called it.
May is for Star Wars, and Star Wars is for May. There we go. News we've all been waiting for. It's news we predicted, and hoped for. That's the thing. It's a good thing. StarWars.com announcing that the ongoing Star Wars 2025 kicks off right after Free Comic Book Day. One coming on Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Got the quote from the StarWars.com article here. The comic written by Los Angeles Times book prize winner and best-selling author Alex Segura, with cover and interior art by Phil Noto. I'll show the covers here. Reintroduces old friends like Mon Mothma, and that's, you see Violet Valance on that cover, by that variant on the right there by Lionel Francis Yu, along with some new allies and foes to enter a bold new chapter for the series. Han, where for the life of the Force is your beard. I'm disappointed. Anyway, Segura is quoted later on in the article. Now that we've put the period at the end of the Galactic Civil War with the Battle of Jakku, we can speed ahead into a new uncharted era with some new galactic threats, foes, and mysteries for our beloved heroes to grapple with, blending the familiar with the new and shocking. These stories will be packed with action and the character moments Star Wars fans have come to expect, featuring twists on the galaxy and featuring twists on the galaxy and the landscape we know, with the eye toward making sure people can jump in easily and with any issue. A number of really interesting things here. First off, Phil Noto doing interior art. which he hasn't done much of.
Poe Dameron series, he did a lot for that. Yeah.
The Charles Soules Poe Dameron series, which was great. I'm glad we're getting more interior art. I have a bit of a hot take. All his covers are basically the same. They're just characters standing there. He can do a lot more. I think he can do a lot more interior art. But good, he's doing the cover and interior art. Also, again, Han, where on earth is your beard? Come on, buddy, we need it. There, also, and then I mean the this Uncharted, the landscape that we know is going to have some twists. And they obviously definitely set up at the end of Last Stand number 4. With what we think is Reyna, Oscar, different characters. Yeah, that's Spyler there. Looking at this cover on the right there, these stormtroopers. Who knows what faction they're with? Who knows what grouping they're with? They could be with whatever. Who knows what Han and Ballard are up to? I mean, I'll get to. They do have the description for issue number 1. I'll get to that in a minute. But first off, Chris, the news we've been expecting, news we've been hoping for. The last thing I'll say though is, again, the fact that we could predict this, and the fact that it is a good thing. It's not a boring thing. It's Alex Segura really earned this, very clearly earned this, and all the way through we were predicting, he's going to keep writing this. And so, and then he mentioned, even the article he mentions the Free Comic Book Day issue that comes out the Saturday, May 3rd, I believe. So read that and then read this on May 7th. Chris, what'd you think of this news? We finally got it.
Yeah, we called this back when we first got the solicitation for the Free Comic Book Day 2025. It was oddly conspicuous how it's like, okay, we have each story from Jedi Knights, a little snippet. We got a snippet from the Legacy of Vader. And what's this random Luke Skywalker story written by Alex Segura post Return of the Jedi? Well, why is this here? This is odd. Okay, and jump to the conclusion. He's going to be writing an next ongoing that's going to tie in his. Bam, we hit it. Bingo. But it's crazy because it's almost funny. This is almost sort of a story you would have expected Marvel to kind of lead with, right? Yeah. With that 2015 run, you would have thought, oh, maybe they would have just started here, right? The Road to the Force Awakens. Yeah. But it still was like the number 1 selling comic of all time or something. Even it didn't matter what era it was in, even with the original trilogy, which people were tired of at that point already, and it's still sold like over 1 million copies or some crazy number that nothing else has come close to since. So this was something that's I've been wanting for literally 10 years since Marvel got the license, to do Star Wars again. And this is just very exciting from the standpoint of, besides Last Shot written by Daniel Jose Older, there is literally nothing else that I could think of that is taking place in between Battle of Jakku and The Mandalorian. Mandalorian is about 5 years after the Battle of Jakku, so technically there's 4 years of real estate that they can play around with at this point. This could just keep going on and on and on and on. So I don't expect there to be a new ongoing for the next 10 years. Honestly, this could be, we could be in issue 250, 5 years from now.
Marvel's done it. Marvel's on that. Yeah.
Right. How cool is that, knowing that there's no finite really end point? Yeah. I mean, maybe once it gets to the Mandoverse, it would have to stop, and then they could restart, another couple of years after the Filoni movie ends up being, or something like that. But that's what's really excited for me, is we have this brand new landscape of stories, right? We're getting these side characters like Byler and Valence back. I am so pumped because you got to see this guy in Imperial Cadet, that mini series that had tied into the solo Star Wars stories, knowing that these guys were at the Krita Academy, and Han Solo kind of risked his life to save this guy that was his frenemy. And then you get to see the gesture that Byler Valence was helping out Luke and Leia with the job as palace droid in the final issue of Bounty Hunters. Like he feels bad, like his friend, like he's trying to do anything to help out these guys, save his old buddy. So to see these guys reunite on this cover is so darn heartwarming. I cannot wait to see these guys going on adventures again. And the idea that, even with Alex Segura's other work with Poe Dameron and Freefall, like him setting up like all these pirate factions and all that, obviously that's going to be a major threat. We just got out of watching Skeleton Crew. That's a huge, big adversary for the New Republic. So we're going to see a lot of pirate action, but right there on the main cover, we got the right there on the center, a Star Destroyer, and then clearly remnant troopers on the variant cover. So even though this is after the Battle of Jakku, we know in Mandoverse there's still remnants of Imperials all over the place. So I'm excited to just see more Luke and Han and Leia, right? This is the big three we've wanted to see. We've been deprived of these characters since 2020. This is 5 years later. We're finally going to get these Luke Skywalker, Han, and Leia stories after the events of Return of the Jedi. And there's finite time, I guess, to a certain degree, because we know Han doesn't stick around as a general with the New Republic very long. I think after Battle of Jakku, we're going to see what happens. But yeah, I'm super curious to see what those first couple pages are in this first issue, to see where everything stands. Are they talking about the Imperial Remnant? Are they talking about Race Sloane? Where did this faction go in Unknown Region? I'm very curious to see how this escalates to include everything. But yeah,
I wouldn't expect that, because the Race Sloane's supposed to be disappeared. They think they're dead. They're gone. Actually, here's a question that you guys might be able to help me with. Do you guys know when this actually starts? Because there's an IGN article that said that this will take place roughly 2 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. So it's supposed to take place I guess that's 1 year. I guess 1 year is after the aftermath, so you gotta count that year. So I guess is there do you think this is day 2 after the Battle of Jakku, or just a year after the Battle of Jakku, and it's it's not start off day 1?
That's a good question.
It's not officially on StarWars.com, but I meant to look at that article earlier. Sometimes the third-party websites have a little bit more information from interviews and stuff. So let me look at that in the meantime. But
I just assumed day 1, but
same here. But if they're saying 2 years, that's a whole nother year that gap that happens.
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, hopefully at least they'll catch us up a little bit. I love that point about Han and Bylert, right? I mean, we see Bylert really caring about Han. He's frozen in carbon. I gotta go help save him, and so that's part of him turning hero there. And then of course, finally, you're right. We on the cover, Leia, Luke, Han, right there. The big three. Yeah, this one's got to sell like hotcakes too. Come on, like that cover. That's gotta be huge. What the point about timing. I mean, I do wonder if they are going to try and hew closer to real time. I mean, the only thing that makes me think that is because Battle of Jakku played with timing so interestingly in its release schedule. So maybe something like that. But you're right, it could be. I mean, this is what we've been saying. This feels more momentous than 2020 for sure. This feels as momentous as 2015. It's just so different, right? The 2015, we knew we had these benchmarks of films that the stories had to hit. Now the only thing we have is Luke's training academy, the scenes in Book of Boba Fett or whatever show that is. That's it. That's all we got. We
we still have to go to save Grogu at the end of Mando season 2. So.
Yeah, we have these vague sketches, is what I mean, like vague small moments, but otherwise,
that's an ending to one of these arcs. It's get Lucas to call. It's seeing like a little Yoda thing.
Yeah, maybe
go check that out.
Maybe, but that's a number of years away. So.
That's how they end the series.
Maybe. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I think.
Yeah, I dug a little into the article. Let me interject real quick. So, Segura, this is from IGN. Segura Noda's Star Wars is set roughly, keyword roughly, 2 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. following a major clash between the Empire and the Rebel Alliance at the Battle of Jakku. So it seems like maybe there was a little bit of misinterpretation because we all know it was about a year after. And the way they reference like the battle after Battle of Jakku, I think they just maybe made a mistake. It should be probably just a year. I would imagine like we're gonna get like that aftermath. Like okay, like it's been a couple weeks since the Battle of Jakku. This is what's happening. At least I hope that's kind of what happens.
We can another thing to ask Alex. There we go.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Sorry, keep going. Joel, you were saying something.
Oh no, I guess I can give my thoughts on the.
I lost my train.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, oh no, that's what I was gonna say. Last Shot is also set around there, right? It's set 2 years in.
You're right. Because I remember he's a toddler at that point.
Toddler. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I mean, it is kind of neat and tidy, right? You have Endor, then a year you have Jakku, and then maybe every year you have the events of Last Shot. Obviously, life and time doesn't work that way, but you know. High Republic is exactly through 200 years before before Phantom Menace. So you know how that.
It's only covered a year, like 3 years worth of that entire era.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, really exciting news, Joel. I haven't gotten your whole thoughts. What do you think of this news?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited because I think now Alex Segura is kind of unchanged from both the continuity of the aftermath saga of all those things that it has had to really deal with. I think he's also unchanged from, you know, the pacing of a 4-3 arc maxi series, and can go as long as he needs to, I guess. Unless Marvel cuts him off for some reason. You know, so he's allowed to kind of hopefully let the stories breathe a lot more. Maybe not pack everything in at once. So that's gonna be nice to see. And he has more or less 5-6 years before Luke's gotta go save Grogu. For all you know, it's like they might keep the series running longer, and like the 2015 one, just give it to another writer and not renumber it like they did with when Jason Fry gave it to Gillen. When Jason Aaron gave it to Gillen, so that's right. Jason Aaron gave it to Gillen, so they might, Alex Segura might do 20-something issues, and then somebody else does another 20 or 30. I don't know.
I think Jason Aaron did about 50 or 45 or something, right?
Something like that. A lot.
And toward he was running out of steam by that point. So yeah, that's possible. Sorry, go ahead.
So that's nice. I'll be curious again to see like what kind of villains we're gonna see, because obviously we're gonna see Imperial remnants, but I do wonder if they want to also like make some new villains, because they can now. It doesn't have to be just so Empire focused all the time. And since the Empire focused stuff is gonna happen more in the Mandoverse anyway, like we get pirates, maybe we get Atha Prime, maybe we get the Nagai, who are an alien race from the unknown regions.
Maybe we get Prince Zizor and the fallout of the vacuum of Jabba the Hutt as one of the big arcs. Getting with the Fortune on Tatooine, see what's going on. I mean, maybe we get Kira back because she's out there around there.
I hope so. I'd love to see Kira. Although part of me feels like if we were bringing back Kira, Charles Soule would probably write that one. But who knows?
I think he'd be okay. I think he'd be okay with letting whoever.
Yeah,
maybe.
I get your point. I mean, he's the one who brought her back. On that note, we also got in the article, we got a description for issue number 1, which does give us an idea of how this thing is going to be structured and focused on. What the focus is going to be, the threefold focus. An epic new adventure begins for Luke, Leia, and Han. I'll say this again in May, in the wake of Return of the Jedi. So Alex Segura launches the bold next year of Star Wars. Luke Skywalker must defend the New Republic from a bloodthirsty gang of mercenaries. Han Solo investigates a deadly underworld mystery and saves a surprising ally. Leia Organa must grapple with a new alliance opposed to the goals of the New Republic. So what this clearly shows that they're going to be relating to each other. Again, Han and Leia have a kid, by the way, but Leia's going to be doing the politics thing, right? Han's going to be doing the underworld thing. Luke's going to, I don't know what, bloodthirsty gang of mercenaries and probably the Force thing. So yeah, it shows that they're gonna. It's gonna be this threefold thing. The Jason Aaron book, especially, I think ended up really devoting different arcs to each three of the characters.
Yeah.
It's kind of how that worked. I'm wondering.
Soul did that too. I felt with
Yeah, he did it. Yeah, that's
a
true.
lot of Lando too. A lot of Lando love.
Yeah, he did a whole Lando stuff. Bunch of Lando arc. Charles Soule just likes Lando, writing Lando. It's
he
true.
does.
And Lobot.
And Lobot.
Yeah, so that seems pretty clear. Yeah, these will be fun to see. I agree. Again, got name dropped by Kira. So, well, this is maybe a question for you. I'll throw it to Chris. Do you think they're gonna weave these three stories in each issue or whatnot, or do you think it's gonna be like one arc and then one arc and one arc?
I do hope they weave them. I hope they tell them concurrently stories, like little views that might maybe connect, intersect at certain points, because that's one criticism I have about the Trolls Soul run is the idea of like we were going for stretches, like months sometimes, like with zero Luke Skywalker in a Star Wars comic book series. And I was going, wait, what's going on here? Like, he needs a lot of development between Empire and Return of the Jedi if he's to be a Jedi Knight. So I hope that Alex Segura is able to somehow give every character their due, especially Han Solo. Like, he really need to get a lot of Han Solo since we haven't had him for 5 years. So
this point here, I mean, both the unboxing and Borgerding talking about Zizor and Black Sun and them, it makes me think who can bring the different main character storylines together is a villain and a villain group that is has their tentacles in different things, and then they all have to address the same thing in this alliance. I mean, this could be the legit front of Black Sun as opposed to the Republic, the goals of the Republic. We don't quite know what that means, and of course the Underworld. Black Sun, the Underworld. So yeah, and then they can hire mercenaries. So I can see that maybe. I mean, Joel, what do you think of in terms of connecting versus weaving versus having different arcs?
Yeah, I hope it can be done well, without feeling like you're trying to cram in too much as well, which I would think is also the opposite problem with let something breathe. Obviously, maybe just focus on one thing at a time. So yeah, I think a little bit of both is always good. I'll be curious to see like how many issues each arc is, if they go with an arc structure or not.
Yeah.
Kind of what exactly is going to be like the overarching kind of main goals of this of the story outside of just Luke Han and Leia adventures. Which I mean, I love to meet some Luke Han and Leia adventures, of course, but it's like, what kind of is sort of the grander narrative here in between what's going to be, of course, the Mandoverse, and then ultimately when the big stuff really starts coming down with the sequel, which is not going to be for another 20 or 30 years. So they're still got lots of little. So maybe it'll be even like a very smaller scale thing as well, where it's like kind of more like episodic kind of adventures as well. Because obviously the big galactic war is over. There's no overarching rebellion anymore. There's no Jakku battle anymore. There's kind of no big overarching event because there's not supposed to be. There's
no big bad.
The galaxy is at peace until the First Order really shows up, and who knows how they'll handle Thrawn and very commando.
Until we have the reemergence of the Yuzong Vong into the Star Wars universe.
Oh gosh, I have no idea.
That would be. I don't know, man. When Balance, I keep going back to the reference that Balance made, and it was bold, like it was important, and saying that there's some trouble in the unknown regions.
I don't think it's the Vong. I think it's the Nagai, which is a Marvel alien species from the 80s, and they.
What about the Grisk?
Yeah, the Grisk.
Tim Zont's never gonna let them do it.
I don't know.
No, they won't.
I don't think he has a final. I don't think he has a veto.
I think he does. I don't. That's his universe. That's his corner.
But I mean, it's Lucasfilm. They could be like, "Well, you signed this agreement. We're going to use anything you create." I mean, he doesn't have power. He's not. He's not an executive at Lucasfilm.
Cares.
They want to be nice. Yeah, they want.
And also, I don't think Lucasfilm cares as much. They really don't.
That's true. Here's a good shout. Bring bringing in Hera, Zeb, Chopper in.
Oh, that'd be nice.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we get a mention of a Phoenix Squadron in Battle of Jakku.
Sure.
They're there, right? So, yeah.
I would love to see them and Senator Ziono.
They go. Yes, they definitely need a break.
Serious. These poor guys are just constantly battling something.
Yeah.
After all
Last
these
thing I
years.
want to point out, Luke, he's
Love it.
dealing with bloodthirsty gang of mercenaries.
Yeah.
He's not wearing the black Jedi robes. He's wearing the X-wing pilot. Now maybe that's how he gets around. But I mean, Jedi, even in their Arc 170s or whatever, the other sprites, they're wearing Jedi robes. What are you doing there, buddy? Why aren't you up in the order?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, it's really iconic, really an iconic image. I feel like already because we've seen him only ever using the blue lightsaber with this uniform
Sure,
on.
yeah.
So to see him with the green is very striking. As wait, is this the multiverse? Like, what galaxy is Luke in the pilot garb with a green lightsaber? Like, this is kind of cool, but it's just a little bit different of a feel,
It'll make
wonder-
sense in the story. Sorry, go Joe.
Or maybe I mean I don't know. I never trust covers 100%. Maybe just for aesthetic reasons. And when in the comic, he's still in the black robe for all we know.
Sure.
Yeah,
That is. Yeah,
It
I think that I remember, Chris. We've had a few moments where there'd be, I think in the Charles Soule comic, where there'd be the cover with Luke right there, and Luke's not the issue at all, or something.
Oh yeah, for sure. Common
He's
thing.
got to be in this issue. For sure.
I do want to mention from a macro level of like releases and stuff with Marvel in 2025.
Yeah.
Matthew, me and you have talked about this, about how the idea of like, we're used to having like multiple ongoings connected, in between, whether a 2015 run or 2020, multiple 3 or 4 comics coming out. I find a very interesting strategy with Marvel this year going, hey, we're going to give something to every fan of every era of Star Wars, whether it's the prequels with the Jedi Knight, you get the post-original trilogy with this one here, and then we get the sequel trilogy with the Legacy of Vader. So there's a lot to love. If you're a sequel trilogy fan, original trilogy fan, prequel fan, all of the above, you're going to be winning with Star Wars this year because there's just so much good stuff, and it's all starting out within like the first like 4 months of the year. Starting off in a couple weeks.
2 weeks.
We got sequel trilogy stuff. Then in March, right, with the so it's like every 2 months. It's like every little bit of time we're getting some big ongoing issue, and who knows what other miniseries they could be announcing along the way that may or may not tie into any of these, or maybe even other ongoing. Maybe they could say after the first arc they introduce Dr. Aphra again, and they say, oh yeah, and she's spinning off into her own ongoing again, because they've done that so many times. Or another bounty hunter. Oh my gosh, can you imagine if we get another bounty hunter series after Battle of Valance reunites like his crew or something like that?
I like that too. I just want to add, I like that too, because I think, I think one of my big complaints for sort of the 2024 run was like, everything felt so locked in with the big events of both the Dark Droids and the Crimson Dawn War. I don't remember, and it's sort of like everything kind of had to work in tandem with one another. And it's like now here everything can kind of get a little bit more loose, a little bit more. Everyone kind of has a little free. I have my own kind of theories of maybe how these things can all interconnect, but not like get too worried about each other. Yeah, at the prime, if I had my theory correct, but still kind of go their own paths and not have to worry about each other too much and coordinate, which I think will help them as well kind of do what they want. So I like it. And also, let's spread the timeline out a little bit. Everything's not so concentrated.
That's interesting. I mean, very quickly to bring this point, who can jump in easily with any issue.
That's interesting.
That's weird.
It also worries me. It does also worry me because I don't want this to be so episodic that I could just pick up issue 5 and get a cool story, and then go to issue 7. I want to have that's the reason why I would like it ongoing, is the fact that we are getting this broad, big moment in time, And I think it's just PR marketing speak. Like, of course, they're Marvel. They want to sell comics. They don't want people to just feel like, oh, I'm not going to read this now because it's out of my league. Like, they're going to say, I just try to get more buyers. Hopefully, that's only that don't do anything revolutionary. And here's the thing, Matthew, we're already getting that episodic content with the Jedi Knights ongoing, which kind of bummed me out a little bit, if I'm being honest. For like, I wanted like a really good like ongoing. And
there's going to be a through line with Qui-Gon.
There's going to be a through line, but please, no offense to the creators, but please let it be better than IDW's Star Wars series that was like a teddy bear that was connected in images.
Well,
like,
that's
not how you do an ongoing that's loosely connected. Just having a little teddy bear going in each panel of every comic.
Chris, I disagree. I think we need more episodic stuff. I think ongoings honestly get tiresome. Like, I'll be honest, I got tired of the last run of ongoing pretty quick. Like, Vader went on too dang long.
Yeah.
I think honestly we need to kind of change that mentality and get more ongoing, especially for this time, which quite frankly can't be that big because it's not supposed to be.
Yeah,
but the big stuff is already happening.
But it's the flagship, though. I think with the flagship, that brings another level of responsibility. Like, people see Star Wars #1 and they want to get hooked in. This thing is going to have a zinger at the end of this first issue that's going to hook us in. Like, oh my gosh, like, I can't wait for next month to pick up this next issue because this big bad just got introduced, whether or not it's Zizor or it's some alien force or something. Like, they're going to want to put something big in here. But that's what I mean. Like, the fact that we now have a Star Wars ongoing, I don't feel as bad about this Jedi Knight series being more episodic because, again, for people like Joel that want that more episodic content, they have that for you over there. And for us, whoever, they can get this over here. Yeah. Like, see Vader definitely seeming like it's going to be, sequential kind of important big moment in Kylo Ren's life between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. So it seems like they're kind of giving every kind of reader interest something, hopefully.
I guess it's a matter of like how big you can get. Like, again, by the time we got to Dark Droids, I'm like, did this really happen in between Empire and Jedi? Even Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire has this like paragraph where it's like, and then a bunch of stuff happened that almost feels too unbelievable to believe happened. Like, literally, they make fun of the fact. They make fun of the fact, like, all this stuff happened in between Empire and Jedi, really? So it's like...
Ben does with Han.
Yeah. Right? I know. So, I mean, it's like, I mean, to me, something like a Shizor being like a big bad, that works for me, right? Like, that's fine. Yeah. It's like, it's when like a zombie apocalypse is happening in between a Jedi and Mando season 1, where I'm like, that happened in between Mando and before Mando.
I mean, again, we don't see really any of those characters much at all. We don't see Leia or Han at all. And,
I feel like, though, even Din would probably know. Well, Din's a bit of an airhead, but like Grief Karga would mention, remember that zombie apocalypse?
Well, he doesn't care. They don't care about what's happening in the Republic.
I mean, if it's not, it could happen. If it's happening galactic wide, though, it's like
Let's see. So unboxing is definitely on Team Arc, 3 to 4 comic long arc. I mean, that's the question. I mean, I think, Chris, I'm with you in the sense of, well, Joel, I'm with you in the sense of, have more anthology series, have more anthology type content, just not in the main ongoing.
And that's the thing. We've gotten really good examples of that already, right? Like this year, we had the Darth Maul Black, Red, and White. Yeah. Perfect example of, okay, here's a mini series of 4 issues. Each one is completely on its own. Yeah. Right, like that's line, but there's a tiny through line, but I think that's where the miniseries do really well, where it's those 4 or 5 issues of, all right, let's get into this theme or this character and just go wild with it for a little bit. But I could see where you want something that has, because those comics typically are more Legends focused, even though they're not coded as Legends. It's like, here's some crazy far out stories. These crazy are like these. They get these really cool like famous artists to do these issues to go crazy with them. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Yoda can do with that mysterious female Jedi that's new to the comics, and what Qui-Gon might be doing with the dude from the Inquisitor 4 miniseries. What is his name? Tenshu Run.
Yeah.
Like there's like really cool. I feel like that could work really well, specifically because it's so many Jedi out there that they're all going to have their own little story.
Yeah, that one's going to be a bit more more of an anthology, tapping into the victory of prequelism. Speaking
of character stuff, kind of go back to the main line for a second. Obviously, I'm sure the focus will be on Luke, Han, and Leia, as it probably should. But I hope that they're willing to also kind of, since it's called Star Wars, it's not called Luke, Han, and Leia, as I always like to kind of say. You know, I love an arc with just Mon Mothma. It's like kind of like the Mon Mothma Lando thing. That was kind of fun. But like, I don't know, give me like an issue or two that's an arc of Mon Mothma chancelloring.
Yeah, or definitely Mon Mothma. I mean, though that's just it. Leia's doing the political thing. If Leia's doing the political thing, then we know Mon Mothma's going to be.
And bring in Sinjir, dang it! I want to see.
Yeah. Let's bring in Sinjir. I agree. All right, we've hit 2 hours. This is getting. I mean, this with 3 people that happens too. But So anyway, on that note, then any final thoughts on this news?
I'm so happy, man. This is like the news I was waiting for literally 10 years. You sent me this, and I was on cloud 9. I said,
It made your day.
This is great. I'm getting what I wanted. And just looking at the Han Solo variant artwork here, and the idea he's wearing calling back to Solo. He's wearing that reverse Han Solo vest, the white vest with the black undershirt. It's like, all right, this guy's kind of reliving his glory days. I hope that's not just for the comic book flair. I really want to see him kind of wearing. Actually, he is sort of wearing the same thing in the main cover, so that leads me to believe that he is probably going to have a change of wardrobe back to the good old days, reliving his nostalgia.
Yeah. So go ahead, Joe.
I'm excited for this too, and I'm going to be honest. Here's my hot take. I think it's better that we've had to wait. I think that being able to build off of 2 main lines, all the spin-offs, and of course, kind of also having a bit more of a forward direction with knowing where the Mandoverse is going to hit. Of course, obviously, the sequel trilogy as it's now finished hit. I think that will help. That's another thing, and maybe one of the reasons why they waited, because like now they can kind of have like, here's an end goal compared to like in Legends, where when they wrote those books, it's like Thrawn trilogy, and then I don't know, another thing. Like there was no kind of direction. It was just like, just make it up and go along.
Yeah.
Where here it's like, okay, we got the Luke, Han, and Leia adventures, but we kind of now have to like hit certain points, and we kind of know where the arcs need to go, so we can kind of.
I also feel like at this point with the Mandoverse, with Filoni and Favreau kind of steering the Lucasfilm ship right now, I feel like maybe there was a little bit of approval that had to happen from them too, because at this point, it's so late in the game with the Mandoverse, they probably have the Mandoverse like fully mapped out until its end at this point, I would imagine, even if it's just roughly done. They don't have scripts for every single thing done yet, but like they can go ahead and be like, all right, like you can use Luke, Han, and Leia. Maybe don't acknowledge these things at this point, but you can make a clear run to like Mandalorian season 1 without conflicting with any like maybe stories or flashbacks that might have happened. So I think this also had to wait for that reason. Is like, okay, they are pretty solidified on what the Mandalorian verse is going to do. Now we're finally getting the floodgates open, but just the idea that every couple months, me and you, Matthew, were going, oh, I think the time is right. I think we're gonna get that announcement.
We were in New York next to each other.
Yeah. It was at San Diego Comic-Con. I was like, oh, we're gonna get the announcement tomorrow that they give us about Jakku, and I'm like, oh wait, that's not ongoing. And then we're in New York Comic-Con. We're like, oh, they're totally announcing it. And then Charles Soule is making this cryptic announcement of, Christine Ariel's trying to like press him for more information. He's like, I can't tell you yet. And then we're going up to him at his booth the next day. He's like, oh guys, just wait. There's an announcement on Wednesday that it's the rise of Vader or the legacy of Vader. Like, oh, it's still not the same thing again. What the heck is happening? We're getting a Jedi Knight ongoing. I'm like, you guys are announcing everything but the thing I want right now. And then we finally get this on our random Tuesday morning in January going, we finally got the announcement. It's happening. It's been a saga trying to get this thing officially announced, but I'm finally.
I wonder how long they've known, though, how they could do this.
Like, goodness. They've known for a year.
I'm sure.
Or
at least
longer.
a year.
Like he's had to have written. I mean, Alex has had to have written a bunch of these issues already. But I'm gonna call Random Tuesday in January is my new name for Lucasfilm's best favorite time to announce something. Random Tuesday in January. Forget Celebration. Forget D23.
Exactly.
The next movie next January, the first Tuesday in January, the third Tuesday in January 2026 is when they'll announce the Filoni film. Just too much.
But no,
I
I agree with you, Chris. I think at now Mandoverse is kind of in a place where it's like movie, Ahsoka season 2, and probably Heir of the Empire. I don't think they have plans for any more spin-offs. At least not yet. They probably want to just get through to Heir of the Empire and then maybe plot course after that. But like, course set.
Makes sense. All right. We're past 2 hours. I gotta go to bed. This is great. This is fun. Definitely excited. One last thing to say, I almost forgot. Next week we're gonna go to another 2 hours.
Oh gosh,
we won't.
No. Oh,
so I think this is right. I think I emailed the guys at the folks at Dark Horse. I think I got confirmation this is right. Like a few weeks ago when they sent us the review copy for Echoes of Fear. I'm like, no, that's not right, guys. What's happening?
Oh, I have to reread that. I forgot we got that.
Grateful, Dark Horse. The folks at Dark Horse are gold standard in how they deal with fans and how they take care of us. So grateful for that. But yeah, 4 books coming out. A new Legacy one shot. Kind of like the look back. So you want to put something on, Chris?
Yeah, so this makes perfect sense with the new Legacy. I know this was supposed to be for the current time. I know this was the original trilogy. But now that we know we have the acknowledgement of Violent Valence going to be in the current timeline, I think maybe they'll seed in like a panel or two of him like post Return of the Jedi. Same thing with Aphra. I feel like this is a look back, but now that we have the acknowledgement of the new ongoing, I feel like they might actually seed in a plot line or two of them, like maybe in the new thing. So now I'm actually even more interested to read these because this could be actually pretty relevant, perhaps, to the future here. Maybe.
So we got new Legacy one shot, Ewoks 4 wrapping up the whole Adler thing.
Oh yeah.
I can't wait to see them with the ending of that going, oh, we finally secured the weapons, and then Adalard is dead. It's like, oh crap.
Oh, I haven't been reading that. Is this book going alongside the Battle too? Like,
it was kind of concurrent, and it ties in a little bit, which is nice.
That's hilarious. That's
and then 4 High Republic Adventures comics from Dark Horse, including Tyler. Please let us know. I think you're involved in this. Adventures 14, the Battle of Ariadu. We're getting there finally. The annual dispatches from the Occlusion Zone 4 and my guy Wreath with the Rod of Ages.
Oh no!
Echoes of Fear number 4. Am I clipping? Am I better?
No. I realize again we're gonna have a discrepancy. We're gonna have to contact Dark Horse again and say which one do we read first?
ADJO.
14 or
what
annual?
The answer me last time. All right, so this is great. Tyler doing the letters.
Oh, it's so cool.
That's sweet.
Oh, can't wait. That's awesome.
No pressure. Just kidding. Yeah, definitely great. Yeah, thanks Tyler for all the work you do on this and bring this to life. So yeah, I think there were just different release order things. So yeah, I'll reach out to Dark Horse and just to see and probably DJO. I don't think he wrote dispatches, but yeah, gonna be fun. I mean, I miss High Republic. When was the last time we had a High Republic book?
It's been like a month. I feel like almost.
So, yeah, and we haven't had a High Republic novel in a bit. So,
and then in 2 weeks we're getting the new High Republic run from Marvel, the 5 or 6 issue series, Fear of the Jedi or something with Kel Naka.
It's in 3 weeks. February 12th. February 5th, 2 weeks is Legacy of Vader number 1. So, there you go. So, anyways, Chris, what are these? What are this one of these 6? Which one are you looking forward to?
Oh goodness! Now you got me on the spot because there's so much good stuff I'm looking at right here on the screen. Oh man, I gotta say I didn't think I would say this. I think Ewoks 4. I really enjoyed that one quite a bit. Really diving into the lore and the world building of Endor and the Ewoks and everything. I just can't wait to see how it ends with knowing how Battle of Jakku ends. I feel like it's going to be pretty funny with like, oh yeah, okay, he's dead. Now what do we do?
There we go. Tyler says he'll check all the notes and let us know. Great. Definitely working in the industry to help us out here and chime in. I'm glad you're joining us in the comments there.
But I will say real quick, no, like if you're saying, I guess the Battle of Jakku, now I'm going to use battles. The Battle of Eriadu,
yeah,
like we left off with the wedding spectacular. I believe is the last chronological thing we've read that connects.
Yeah.
So I am really excited to see like the pieces are set, the characters are where they need to be. It's literally going to be all out war with all those Jedi, the Nile, the Warden, like all these characters in place with the non-force sensitives like Maz Kanata and all these other dudes. Like it's gonna be one hell of a freaking battle. I can't wait for that too.
Tyler saying 14 is right after the wedding. Yeah, that makes sense. Right. Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. My guy Wreath. I didn't read it yet. I've waited. To get closer to the issue, but closer to the week. But my guy Wreath. I mean, that's the thing. Both Battle of Eriadu and Wreath having the rod of ages here. I mean, we are now at the final season, the final episode. Really, basically, we're at the finale of High Republic. The cover, Charles Soule in his stories. It's the story saying the cover of Trials of the Jedi is going to be released. I think next few days or next week or something.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
So, I know Joel. I don't know if you. I mean, like New Legacy is a one shot. If you want to pick that up right off the shelf,
might look. That's the one was that like the short with like Afra and Valence and Morgan in it.
Yeah,
I'll probably take a look at that one for sure because I think I agree with Chris. We could be also seeding things for what they're going to do post Jedi. I'll be curious to see how they kind of re-enter the picture again, if they just go straight to spin-offs or do they go through the main line then spin off through there again.
So definitely pick these up. Go to your local shop, pick these up, support small businesses, especially with all the topsy-turvy of the industry, with Diamond doing its thing. Hopefully your store gets the books in. They seem to be on pace, on schedule. Things seem to have caught up or catching up, so yeah, support your small business. Of course, you can get them on digital if you want, but again, brick and mortar is where it's at. All right, we did it. We're done. Finished. I'll get that out of the way. Chris, another great episode, another great conversation. Looking back on the book, looking back on Battle of Jakku as a whole in the news. Where can they find you on the internet? And I'm guessing you've done some more about this news and about all this stuff on Star Raptor and Outer Rim Transmissions and all that.
Oh yeah. So Outer Rim Transmissions, we just chatted this week about, of course, you guessed it, the finale of Skeleton Crew. So we talked all about that. We're taking a break this week because I'll be in New York for the whole weekend. Nice. So that's going to be fun, and then we'll come back the following. And then Super Bowl is the next week, so we're going to take off another week. So it's going to be like bi-weekly for the month of the rest of January for the most part and into February. But that's good because we already got like huge headlining news to come back to the next time with these comics, with Ryan Gosling rumors and whatnot. It's a good time in January for Star Wars news. So you got us there, Outer Rim Transmission, on most Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And on the channel right now, I have a reaction to the ongoing news. So I have a whole 8 minute and some second video. I'm just kind of breaking down the kind of like what you did, Matthew, like official blurbs and things like that, and just more speculation for me. So that's on there now, as well as my review for Jakku, Last Stand number 4. Plus, as I said last week, I said I might branch out and do more content. I got my reaction of a brand new system reveal in Nintendo Switch 2. So I have, again, just to go over the details we do know, what I think is coming up, Town to Pipe, and all that good stuff. So if you're a gamer, I'm starting to do a little bit more of that on the channel in the meantime as well. And it's youtube.com/StarRaptor. On Twitter, also talking about all the above, gaming, Star Wars, and more. Twitter.com/StarRaptor. There you go. So yeah, it's good having Joel, a third person, on this week. Bounce ideas off of. It's always good to have you on here every once in a while. There you go.
Well, we'll have him on sooner than we think. You can follow the links for Chris Twitter and YouTube are down below. Joel has mentioned. Thanks for joining in. Just on Monday on Iron Cannon, we talked all about Star Wars and accessibility. Should stories be accessible? What's maybe good about them being a bit more challenging? Different questions like that. Just because something maybe is challenging doesn't mean it's inaccessible. Maybe it has a wider appeal. You never know. We can't do it. So check that out right here on the Underworld channel. This coming Monday, I'm taking a break, but Joel, you're sticking around. Talk about the X-Wing. Gonna go to Legends look back on in comics, the X-Wing comics. You look back, getting a guest for that. So that is on Underworld channel, Facebook and Twitch, and Iron Cannon Twitch. Mondays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, and then I will be back the next week after that to talk about Skeleton Crew because we haven't talked about that. Just the whole Skeleton Crew look back. Joel, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me mostly at Blue Sky at JID20234 on Blue Sky, and of course on the Star Wars Underworld Discord page where I'm always there. Chitting, chatting, talking, all that fun stuff. I was glad to be on here for the Battle of Jakku. It's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to come back, not next week, but hopefully the week after next to talk about my comic of the year. Hopefully the Legacy Vader, or I just call it the Kylo Ren book.
The Kylo Ren book. There we go. Our resident sequelist chiming in. As always, it's great to have you here. You can follow me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at MNEUG1138, on Twitter at NEUG45. Also on Instagram, beaches.foodie, FOODIE. I'm starting to post a bit more there. Bless your timeline with some good food there. Of course, Iron Cannon Pod, EYEONCANONPOD on Twitter and Instagram and Threads, and of course Iron Cannon on Blue Sky. That about does it for this issue of the Tractor Beat Comics reviews. If we can get this up again, I can find this. Where is this thing? There we go. Next week, check out these books, pick them up. We'll read them. We'll talk about them. But until then, happy reading.